Today we'll have a look at some Italian pens. And it's not just any Italian pens, it's 3 Italian pens in one set. It comes in this white box, and this is not very interesting, but in there is a very fascinating, beautiful box, and in there are 3 very fascinating pens. Now the pens we're talking about were lent to me by Papier und Stift in Germany. Thank you kindly, because this is a very expensive set. So it's very nice to be able to try them out and review them, and of course then send them back. This is the OMAS 90th anniversary icon set, and OMAS sadly is no longer with us, which is a pity, because I think it was a very interesting pen company, but things happen. So this set contains 3 pens, 3 icons in the OMAS design scheme. There is a Paragon, the old style Paragon, which is a lot smaller than the modern Paragons. There is a 360, not the new, no sorry, not the old 360 and not the new 360, but the sort of in between 360. I'll come back to that in a second. And then there is an Ogiva, and those 3 have separate, have different shapes. A 12-sided, what do you call that? 12-sided mathematical shape. Someone will point this out to me. There is the 360, which has that rounded off triangular shape, one of my favorite pens. And there is the Ogiva, which is round. So that is commemorated on the box. Now, on the box, this looks like a round shape, but it does have the 12 facets. Then you have the 360 and the Ogiva. So that's the old style Paragon. Very nice box, very soft cover. I'm going to open it, the pens are not in there. Beautiful display case. They really did a good job on making a collector's set out of this. These are just the plastic wrappers. And then there are 3 of these special OMAS pen pouches that you get with the pens. So you can put them in those slots. It's all very very fancy. I think they really did a nice job on this. And there is an extensive booklet in partially in color on the pens, the history of the company, etc. So there you have it. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out was the dates in which these pens were created. So they say made in celluloid and entirely created by hand. The icon set is composed by 3 fountain pens. The Paragon Vintage, designed by Ser Simoni in 1931, the Ogiva, designed in 1927, and the 360, designed in 1996. And it's pearl grey celluloid. Now, I'm not going to read the whole booklet, I just want to go through the pens. So, let's start with, I'm just going to pick the first one, the Ogiva. Ogiva, I'm just going to quickly cover all 3 pens, so this might be a slightly longer video, but yeah, that's the way it is. Beautiful celluloid, all pens are made of the same celluloid. Nothing on the finial there, just making sure I have a good grip on this. You have the nice little clip with the wheel, I've always enjoyed that. The Greek key center band, I like that too. It is a limited edition set, and let me see, it's on the cap here, number 57 of 90, so there's only 90 of these sets. Also the OMAS, I don't think you can really see that very well on the pen. No, so I'll show you on the booklet. They made the OMAS logo kind of intertwined with the 9, so you get 90 in OMAS. Then we have the barrel, piston-filled pen, which is always nice. It's a nice celluloid. It's not my favorite OMAS celluloid, but it is nice. Cap screws off, and then you have a interesting nib. This set comes with 3 nibs, and you can't get other nibs. So this is the special nibs they selected. On this one is the Extra Flessibile Fine 14 karat nib, so this should give you a nice bit of springiness. I'm assuming the nib is rhodium plated because it's not gold colored, as you can see, but it is 14 karat nib, and very very nice, an ebonite feed. Very good flow, works very well. In the hand, these pens are nice. I know that people complain about the threads that are kind of in the middle of the section. I feel them too, yeah, especially with my middle finger. My fingers are too big to hold just that front piece, so I have to kind of curl my middle finger under that, and I will feel those threads. Now there is another band right there on the section, also has that 90 OMAS logo and a Greek key, and on the back it says anniversary, so 90th anniversary. Nice pen, does post, does work well, and I think it's a very fascinating model. The Ogiva is not my favorite of the OMAS models, but it is pretty, and it's very classic with cigar shape and all that. Okay. The next one in there, Paragon, old style Paragon. What's the difference? Size. The brown one is a new style Paragon, the old one, the top one, is the old style Paragon. Interestingly enough, I haven't measured it, but we do have an old style Paragon that's not this, and the ink capacity of that is considerably larger than that of the new style Paragon, because as I understand it, the new style has an inner plastic liner which takes up some space, and that kind of destroys the ink capacity a bit, even though it still has a decent capacity. Here you have an authentic old style Paragon. So not a modern remake, but an authentic Paragon when this was the only Paragon that existed. And again, if you compare that to the new style, you see that there's quite a substantial size difference, both in diameter and in length. Okay, we were looking at this Paragon, nice faceted model. The facets make it catch the light really nicely. Again, no finial clip without a wheel. A different type of clip. Interesting choice, because the old Paragon I have does have the wheel, as does the new one. So this is a different type of clip. Greek key, center band again, also faceted, very nice, and also piston filler. So not a huge pen, but also very comfortable to use. This pen has a very special nib that OMAS has launched for the first time here, a triple broad. It's a very, very broad nib, very interesting, a lot of fun to use. You see that in the writing sample. Again, ebonite feed, again, nice center band there with the 90th OMAS logo and the anniversary strip there. See that the section tapers down, then flares out a bit. And that's pretty much it. Can be posted if you really want to, but with the facets, as always, be a little careful as not to crack them if you misalign them. Nicely sized pen, not huge, but definitely a nice size. Also matches the size of the Ogiva quite well. The Ogiva is a little larger, but I think it's nice to, they're kind of comparable in size. If they would have picked the new size Paragon, it would have been bulkier. The length would have been more comparable, but it's a more bulky pen. So I understand what they did there. And the final pen, this is one of my favorite pen designs of all time. The OMAS 360. 360 suggests that it's round. It is kind of round, it's a triangle, but it has rounded off facets. And there is also a new 360, which I don't like that much. They really redesigned it, and I prefer the old model, which has that very strong triangular shape. You may think triangles are not very comfortable to write with. Not everyone likes this model, but I really do. So if you ever have a chance to try one out, do so. Now here too, this is the, so it's not really the old model, because I think this was the original. That's the Magnum, and this is the one you get in the 90th anniversary set, which is a lot smaller and also has a lot less girth. And I really prefer that Magnum model for me, but if you have maybe some smaller hands, this would be very nice. Finial, nothing. Clip, unique shape, ski slope. Advantage of this is works super well. Slips in and out of anything very, very easily. So that's a lot of fun. Center band, Greek key again. Then we have the barrel, nice and shiny, and the piston turning knob. As I said, they're all piston fillers. Cap slips off. It is, as I understand it, recommended not to post the 360 model because of its shape. It seems to stress the caps a bit, so they recommend not to do that. So I won't do that here either. Section, completely triangular, very interesting. And of course a nice gold nib. And this is maybe the most boring nib of the set, to the extent that this is a medium nib. So it's not flexible, it's not super broad, it's just a medium. But hey, a good medium nib is useful to have. I also like its 18 karat. Very nice. Also the gold is very nice and yellow. It makes for a very nice contrast with the rest of the pen that's kind of cool. I find this very comfortable to use. So the triangle, I mean, I always think if you hold your fingers like this, that's a triangle shape as well. So just grab the nib and feed. But it's very comfortable to use. But some people have slightly odd angles, and then it starts to get weird. Also, if you, for example, I do that in the writing sample, but if you want to use this upside down, then suddenly the triangle doesn't work anymore, and then it gets odd. But a very nice pen, the 360. Okay, what do I like about this? What do I not like about them? Three wonderful pens. The Ogiva is the model that appeals least to me. It's just a cigar-shaped pen. It's nothing we haven't seen before. It doesn't make it a bad pen, just that of these three, that's the one I like least. Extra flexible nibs are interesting. My experience with OMAS extra flexible nibs has not always been great. I definitely sprung one that was so super soft that, you know, these things happen. So I would be a little bit careful with it. This one seems a bit tougher, so it can take a little bit more, but they can spring. They're very soft, so be careful. I love the celluloid. Celluloid is very nice. It's a lovely material. This particular celluloid I find a little bit cold, but that may be my personal preference. So the Ogiva I like least. I like the 360. I like the old style Paragon, although I prefer the newer Paragon just for the size. But very interesting. Also interesting that they came up with a 3B nib. That's very nice. It's a huge amount of tipping. I'll show you that with a loop here, just so you can enjoy, because that's a lot of tipping. A lot. Very fascinating. So I like all of that. I like the way the pens look. Even the Ogiva, that I don't particularly care for, is a great pen, is a beautiful pen, and you get 3 pens. Now, none of these have ink windows. That's a pity, but none of the OMASs I own have ink windows, so it's kind of a blind guess whether you have ink left or not. That may not be an issue to everyone, but you could also say an ink window would destroy that celluloid, so I get that argument, but there's no way of knowing how much ink you have left. Interesting idea. 3 pens, 1 set, 3,000 euros. It costs about 3,000 euros, I think 2,800. It varies a little bit on the retailer, but think of, it's definitely 4 figures, and it's definitely a lot. So for this, if it's 2,800, you pay about 933 euros a pen. That's a lot. It's a very expensive set. Of course, it's highly limited. There's only 90 of these sets, and you do get 3 pens. But at almost 950 a pen, this is becoming very expensive. I wonder what made OMAS do this, because often when manufacturers make a set, for example, ST Dupont does that quite a lot with their very high-end limited editions. You buy a fountain pen, but you also get a little section that you can put on, and that turns it into a roller ball. Of course, you can't really do that easily with this because they're piston fillers. The section is integrated into the pen. But a set of a more traditional combination, say fountain pen, ballpoint, or roller ball and mechanical pencil, I think is more logical than putting out 3 fountain pens. Of course, these 3 fountain pens are 3 icons for the brand. They are all very well known, and I can see that they wanted to put all 3 of those in their set. Is it worth buying it? Well, that is entirely up to you. It's definitely, I think, not spare change for most of us. but if you are an OMAS collector, I could see you would want this. And of course, even though it is expensive, you do get 3 fountain pens, including one with a nib that is at this point not commercially available from OMAS, nor was it available when OMAS was still in business. So that 3B is a unique nib that you can only get in the set. And that's all there's to it. So a very fascinating set. I look forward to showing you how these write. That's what I'm going to do next. High resolution pictures as well as measurements will be on the website, sbrebrown.com. I hope this was useful so far. A very kind thank you to Papillon Stift for sending me this very expensive set to review. It's coming back to you. And I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye. Bugger me, mate. That's some serious jubblies right there. Lord Minimere, I always thought you meant something completely different when you said, I like birds with big jubblies. No, mate, no, not at all, not at all. By jubblies, all I mean is, large tips, you know? Okay, I think I do know. Would you mind if I just do the writing sample? I don't know, mate. Go ahead. I'll just have some crab salad. Yeah, all right. You do that. Okay, so this was just out, but I don't want to start with that. I want to start with this. The ogiva. OMAS! Ogiva. The ink is sbrebrown, and the nib on this particular pen is the extra flessibile fine. Now, I've had a bad experience with extra flessibile nibs. I sprung one, and especially because this one is on loan, I'm going to be very, very gentle with it. So I'm not going to push this to the max. But here we go. So let's start with some normal writing. This is as little pressure as I can use. Flow is nice, pretty rich, and it's a smooth writer. Even though it's fine, I think it's really quite nice. You notice, as I do this fast writing, I put some more pressure on. You already see a bit of line variation, which I think is quite nice. So wetness, I would say there's no complaints there. Really quite nice. It's Rhodia paper. But of course what you want to see is the line variation. So I'm going to take this slow and careful. And this is the point where I think I may be able to push out a little bit more, but I'm going to leave it at that. Because these nibs, some of them are really soft. You push down on them and it's like... and they're sprung. So we're not going to do that. But I will show you that you can do some pretty fancy stuff with this, which is really nice, and it's not sprung. Okay, then there is the OMAS 360, which has always been a model I prefer. The modern 360s are a bit different, but even this reincarnation of the classical 360 is of course smaller than my ultimate pen, the 360 Magnum. So you can see there's quite a size difference, but it's still nice. I prefer the Magnum, but maybe if you have smaller hands you prefer this. And this is the OMAS 360. I didn't even know I could hit that note, but I fear it's not really a note, so let's move on. Ink is of course the same thing, sbrebrown. Nice, smooth nib. Just a medium nib, nothing fancy, but I like the looks. I think this is actually the exact photo negative of my Magnum, so the gold and rhodium are mirrored. Very pleasant, nice, simple medium. No skips. Nothing. I think it's very, very nice. And as I said, I've always liked that triangular shape. So, very interesting. And wet. Line variation on this. This is not marketed as anything flexible, but you see there's quite some softness to it. You have to be a little hard to align this triangular section in such a way that you can flex it, but as you can see, quite some line variation, which is not at all bad. Okay, and then we move on to the Milord with the big jubblies. Thank you, Lord Windermere. So, OMAS Milord. Am I annoying you yet? Yeah, it happens. That was me. Triple broad. Oh yeah, I like broads, but triple broads are even better. Yes, Lord Windermere, thank you. This is a glorious nib. I know that was a skip, but this is some serious width. Performs pretty well. Of course, the broader a nib gets, the more tipping, the more there is to over polish, and the more skippy a nib can get. I don't think this is terrible. You have to take into account this is really smooth Rhodia paper, so it really sort of elicits skipping behavior, but I don't think this is a bad performance at all. There were some skips, but I've seen a lot worse. It doesn't have too much issue starting up. This is always a good test for that. As you can see, it's pretty consistent. I've had nibs that skipped consistently on every first start, so it's not that bad. Line variation, well, obviously it's a little stubby. That's just because there's so much tipping. It's hard to not get that sort of slightly italic look. But if you want to put some pressure on, you can squeeze out even more line variation, and then things start to get pretty scary because this is a really broad nib. And there you have it. So, a very kind thank you to Papier und Stift for lending me this very expensive, very fancy set of pens. I hope this has been an interesting overview, so that you would have a bit of an idea of what you can expect if you were to buy this. And that's all there's to it. I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.